Welcome back to another edition. Last time we started a discussion of internal financial system parts that you might have in your system. It's not an all-inclusive list, and it's not necessarily a list of parts that are in your system, but it's just a place to start here, to start discovering our own internal financial system. And as we do this, you might be wanting to map these parts, writing down parts that resonate with you, and so that you have a list of parts when we're done with this that you can start to work with as we continue exploring your internal financial system. So we talked about internal or spending related parts, earning related parts, and risk related parts. We talked about 14 parts. We want to continue with awareness and avoidant financial parts. One part you might call the accountant. Tracks every cent. Over obsessed with the financial details, that wants control, wants clarity. This would be a part that would love a budget. Now, there's other parts that wouldn't necessarily want a budget. I can think of the spending part. But this part would be the part of you that wants to track, wants to be very aware of where the money is going. Then there can be another part, maybe like an ostrich type part, that ignores financial realities, is anything but aware, avoids details, does not want to look, can go into overwhelm and denial very easily. Obviously, if your money scripts are around financial or money avoidance, definitely you have this part, this avoider, this ostrich that just puts their fingers in their ears and says la 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 la. Again, it's not the wrong part. It's not a part that we want to get rid of. It's a part we want to understand. Where does that come from, and what's the good intention of this part? There can be a problem-solving part, a part that can go into action with financial challenges. It wants to fix things or find solutions. If you know IFS, this could be a firefighter, maybe. Probably is a manager. But can go into action sometimes immediately. And oftentimes that's to soothe or take care of a part that has a real hard problem with anxiety or feels a lot of anxiety. You can also have a part that's really more passive, maybe not like the ostrich, but is a passive observer, can acknowledge issues, can see the issues, but really hesitates to take meaningful action or to go into action around something. For those of you aware of the Enneagram, this could be a type 9 type part. It could even be a part in a type 5 that actually can see the action that needs to be taken, but won't go into action themselves. Then there's the generosity related parts. Here you can have a overgiver. This is a part that puts others' financial needs ahead of their own, and oftentimes to the point of self-harm or self-sacrifice. This part just cannot stop giving and has a lot of money scripts around that, obviously. There's a part that is the self-pres part, the self-preservation part. And that actually is one of the instincts in the Enneagram, one of the 3 instincts. And so I'm going to suggest we all have a self-preservation part to some degree. It is like a lot of parts, and in some of us it's balanced. It's a healthy part. Just because we have a part doesn't mean it's unhealthy. It gets unhealthy when it goes to an extreme, either over or under. So this can be a part that is more over, that focuses on protecting their own resources and sometimes avoiding generosity of others or helping others entirely. Oftentimes, this particular part can be counterbalanced by a part that is socially unaware or not developed in relational strengths. Another generosity-related part would be the resentful giver. This part gives reluctantly, can feel obligated or expecting something in return. And this is a part that I can relate to. I remember, I think I was well into my 30s before I actually gave from a joyful heart and not a place of obligation and duty. So the resentful giver can be in the internal financial system. Let's move on to shame and justification parts. And this can include a debt shamer, a part that carries a lot of guilt or self-criticism over financial mistakes or debt of the past, especially when the debt is overwhelming. So that this would be a critical part that shames about debt. You can have a part that is a guilty spender, feels a regret or shame after purchases are made, questions their decisions, makes judgments about spending, really can kick in once the spender spends. There can be a justifier that rationalizes financial decisions, that can rationalize going into debt. And that tries to find ways to erase inner conflict or exile inner conflict or snuff it out in some manner. And these parts, I mean, we can have a lot of parts that feel shame, parts that feel guilt or justification when it comes to money decisions. They can be huge in the system. So there is the part that says, I don't deserve money. I feel unworthy of wealth or unworthy of financial stability. In doing this, it can often be a part that sabotages financial prosperity or financial well-being in the system and can really shut down financial growth because of this huge amount of shame that I don't deserve money. Then we'll move on to the scarcity and abundance parts. There is be a part of us that can just hold on to fear about that the money is going to run out. Constantly fears financial depletion, that it doesn't matter how much that I have, eventually this money is going to disappear. Definitely a part that I can relate to myself, especially in my early days of accumulation. And I've had clients that have this fear. It doesn't matter how many millions of dollars they have. There can just be this fear that the money's going to run out. Then there can be a part that believes in abundance, just embraces spending, embraces generosity, and trusts in endless resources. This can be a part that just says that the money will appear. It sees financial problems as not much of a problem at all, and really focuses on the potential and looks at the potential as being unlimited, focuses on possibilities for growth, not the problems. And then there can be a part that says, I deserve money, that financial success is justified. This can be a part that can have some entitlement, that I'm entitled to money. I deserve it. And this isn't tied to whether you have money or not. Because we have a part that believes we deserve money, doesn't relate to if we have it or if we don't have it. So those are scarcity and abundance parts. And that brings us to control-related parts. I think everybody has control-related parts. I know I do. You know, you have that, we'll just call it the controller, that obsesses about money, managing money, wants control, needs order and predictability in financial matters. Now, the reason I think probably everybody has this is, as an Enneagram 1, I have some very controlling parts, and also as a money vigilant. So, and the 1, Enneagram 1, also has parts that fear chaos, that try to compensate for the fear of chaos by creating order, and has this huge need for order. So not every personality has parts that need this. So this is one that is very skewed by my internal financial system. And then there's the free spirit that rejects strict control, that values flexibility, spontaneity, and you could even say in chaos around money. It is a complete free spirit. So I know there's more as I've gone through this list. I've taken a few out here and there. I've added a few back in. I will continue to be working on this because it's a work in progress. But hopefully you have been able to identify some of these parts. And what I would like to move into is a little discussion on some of the polarized parts. So I'll use some of the parts that we've gone through just to contrast them with other parts where they're in a polarization. For example, the most common one that I come across is the spender being polarized with the saver. Spender loving that instant gratification and spending, the saver prioritizing holding on to the money. This is ubiquitous to almost every internal financial system. It's very common in a lot of coupleships where you have one partner whose internal financial system tends to favor spending and one that tends to favor saving. Both are important, and if that couple can learn that what they're viewing as deficiencies in their partner actually being a part of themselves that can be used as a strength in the partnership, things can really turn around. Another polarized pair is the emotional spender that uses money as a coping mechanism for emotional needs, polarized with the scarcity part that wants to protect, that fears any spending, hoards resources as a way to guard against future loss. A part that, of course, doesn't like either spending part. There's the part that wants to live life for today, can be polarized with the part that's the planner, that strategizes budgets and plans for long-term needs. This, again, is a very common polarization. You can have a polarization of the hard worker that has a money script that you got to work hard for your money, with the avoidant earner, the part that just feels overwhelmed by work, financial goals, procrastinates or disengages. So those two parts can be really polarized. You can have a polarization with that dreamer part that fantasizes about effortless wealth and big wins with minimal effort, and the realist that says, come on, let's be practical here. We got to engage that hardworking part. We got to be realistic. We cannot dream. You can have a polarization with the risk taker that loves high stakes decisions, and then that part that's avoidant risk taker that avoids all financial risks, prioritizes stability and safety. You can have a similar polarization with the gambler that takes impulsive risks. It's looking for that adrenaline rush, doesn't really weigh the consequences. With the real cautious investor that carefully assesses risks, that wants steady and reliable growth, which can even lead to analysis paralysis. In the avoidance and awareness category, you can have the accountant that tracks every cent that's out there, that obsesses on financial details, with the ostrich that ignores financial realities and wants to just avoid the details. So remember, these are parts within yourself that are at odds with each other. And you might have had these polarizations in the past and wondered if you were crazy. And the answer is no, you're not crazy. This is the common statement that almost every person on the planet makes. A part of me wants to track every cent, and a part of me just wants to ignore it, to forget about it. You can have the problem solver that will take charge of financial challenges, goes right to trying to solve the issue, and the other one that just wants to acknowledge, yes, the issue's there, but let's not go into action on that. Let's take our time. Just won't go in. And typically one or the other of these will often win a lot of the battles, at least in the early days of working on your internal financial system. You could have a passive observer that there is a part going, we want to go into action, we want to we want to solve the problem, to where this more passive part wins those disagreements internally. So it doesn't mean that there's a balance whatsoever between these parts. Usually there's quite an imbalance between these parts. And what we're looking for, of course, is to bring these parts into balance, is to help these parts learn about each other and listen to each other, understand each other's good intent so that they can become collaborative. I kind of keep jumping ahead of myself. Then there's the generosity versus the self-preservation parts. So we talked about the overgiver that puts others' financial needs ahead of their own, even to the point of self-sacrifice. And you got that self-preservation part that says, hey, how about me? I want to focus on my own resources and may avoid giving entirely. You can have that resentful giver we talked about that gives reluctantly, feeling obligated, gives out of expectation. And then you can have the part that is self-pres, can be the self-pres part that says, no, I'm not going to be forced to give. I'm not going to be manipulated into giving, and just resists that altogether. You can, in shame and justification, you can have a debt shamer that carries guilt or self-criticism over financial mistakes. And you can have the justifier on the other side of that saying, oh, here's why. And it rationalizes all financial decisions. Going into debt deeply, just trying to find a way to resolve that inner conflict. You can have the guilty spender that can feel regret or shame after purchases, that just questions their motives, usually comes in after the spender has spent. And then you can have a part that is offset against that absolutely feels that they deserve it, and they deserve that spending, no matter to what degree that it may have been out of balance in the system. You can have the part that says the money is going to run out, constantly fears financial depletion, polarized with the abundant part that believes in generosity, embraces spending, embraces the idea of abundance, that trusts in endless resources. Of course, you can have the polarization of the I don't deserve money part and the I deserve money part. Again, these are polarizations that people can think that, I'm going nuts. This is weird. There's something wrong with me. I got part that says I deserve money and part that says I don't. Perfectly normal. And then finally, you can have this controlling part that I spoke of that obsessively manages money, needs order, predictability, the avoidance of chaos, polarized with the part that is a free spirit and rejects control, wants flexibility, spontaneity, is not afraid of chaos. And you can have that part within longing to be free, even though the controller is really running the show. And you can have the opposite happening, or you can have a controller that is pretty well exiled by the part that is a free spirit. So, like I said, this is by no means a comprehensive list of internal financial parts. It's just a list to maybe get the awareness flowing within yourself that what parts do I have? And so hopefully as we've gone along, you've taken some notes, you've written some things down. You can draw a money map and kind of show these parts maybe in relation to each other. Do these parts know each other? Are there parts that are aligned? Are there parts that, maybe the free spirit part may not be aware of the money will run out part. Usually it's aware of a part that is polarized, but not necessarily. So just a lot of possibilities within the system. There's no right or wrong within your system. So again, just I'm throwing this out as things to ponder about as we move forward and delve deeper into your system's relationship with money. So next time, I think we'll jump into what's called legacy beliefs in IFS. These would be generational beliefs or generational money scripts, as I have taught and written about in the past. This is the second biggest category of things we typically deal with in financial therapy. So the first being are polarizations between parts, and the second thing being financial beliefs, money scripts that we inherited from our parents, our grandparents, just kind of have the legacy. They can be cultural in nature, but they are typically pretty predominant. So we'll get into those. I think right now I have a little bit over 20 of those to talk about next time. So thanks again for joining me, and if you need any further information or have a question, email me at rick@rickkaler.com, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.